So it's quite broad, I would say, and it's not only green, but also broadly speaking, sustainable product offering. And we started with the origins of the market. So definitely at the beginning, it was green bonds, and then we expanded to social bonds and other forms of sustainable bonds. But then we really tried to expand to as many financial products as I would say it makes sense. So the next stage was the obvious kind of derivatives and loans. But where we always see the bridge is really we are present in lots of financial markets, and we have really expert teams, across products. So we've looked at the repo market, for example, and worked with the repo team to see how it made sense to do their transaction in a stable format. So repo definitely, derivatives as mentioned, we did share buyback as well. And equity is probably, I would say, the next frontier. So it's always for us, where does it make sense to effectively use either some of the approaches we currently have in the sustainable finance market and implement them for other financial products, or where do we need to change effectively the sustainability approach so it's more adapted to a new financial instrument. So I think I mentioned a few of the products that we've developed. One that is very interesting, I think, and where we have done some work, but there is probably more to come, is on the secured asset side. So securitization, covered bond, there has been quite a few, but secured assets is a very broad asset class. And we had worked on a few transactions, but we were really keen to effectively, bring some clarity, let's say, to the market on at least the existing approaches. And in the secured asset world, you have really the collateral most of the time that you will look at, and then the entity that are originating this collateral. And there was, two different approaches, let's say, that needed to have a bit more clarity in the market. And so we coordinated the ICMA task force specifically for sustainable secured assets. So for us, it's always, I would say it's threefold. How we kind of cooperate is, first, we always need the product team that is the expert in, I mentioned repo earlier, or, securitization, because they will know exactly the functioning, the financial mechanics, effectively, of that product. We come as the sustainability team that will have more kind of the ESG lens. But then beyond the one-to-one transaction, effectively, that we can do and bring to the market, it's also how do we help effectively bring clarity or some sort of kind of common understanding of the product within the marketplace. And that's where some of the work we do with ICMA, for example, is important, because that will be really trying to get a broad understanding effectively, and then it helps develop the overall market. And one thing we've always be careful as well with our team, although we bring the sustainability expertise, we have very various backgrounds. So some of us will come from the bond market, some of us will be environmental engineers, some will come from the client side. And so it means that actually for most financial instruments, at least a few of us will have done it in our past with other sustainability features. But it means that when we talk to our product specialists, colleagues, we can really understand what's the requirement. So I would say, in addition to the points I covered, which is really you want, effectively, there are new areas we develop, and so it really requires that two sets of expertise. What is a financial product that your bank or financial institution already knows a lot about, and how can you bring the sustainable angle? What I would say, and I will try to remember the English phrase, is you don't want to, they say force whatever, a square in a circle, something like that. Effectively, there are still, I would say, limits to what makes sense. And you shouldn't force something that, for example, is it really a product where, okay, we don't have any really good solutions for it, and then maybe it needs further work? Is it that your client base maybe is still, and we were talking, with some people here at the conference on the high yield market, Sometimes some companies in the high yield sectors will still be developing, for example, the basics of their sustainability strategy. For this client, it may be too early to move to sustainable finance, and we shouldn't force it in the sense that we shouldn't get them to move there too quickly, because all those sustainable finance in every instruments actually will use is a really kind of, I do believe it's a positive. It creates positive dynamic in that the company will then, your clients as financial institutions, will then be engaged in that process, and every year they'll engage with you as a bank if it's, say, a loan, or with investors if it was a bond, for example. But you still need them to start from a space where they have already kind of, progress with what they want to achieve effectively for the company. It won't be perfect necessarily, but at least they need to have a good basis, and then they can look at sustainable finance. By really forcing them to do sustainable transactions too early, and really not going to help them or the market, because then typically you won't have something that is as robust as you would have liked to. So one last word, I would say, being hosted obviously here by EBRD, it's critical in everything we see in sustainability generally. No one is in reality where we would need to be, whether it's about decarbonization or all the social implications this will have. And so it's critical that we see all this as stakeholders coming together and really working towards that purpose. And really, for every bank operating in the region, for every international bank operating as well in the region, it's key that we are fully working, in cooperation with institutions such as yourself, so we can really leverage on really the firepower you have for the region and be complementary. So I think it's key, and for anything that, some of us don't fully kind of know about what EBRD kind of provides, and be technical assistance or other type of facilities, I think it's critical that there is full collaboration on that.